So we're going to start with Ms. Cahoon, and we're going to move along from there. So the first question, ready? It's just like getting a quiz. Does School District 43 provide or offer professional development courses for the trustees on subjects such as leadership, responsibilities, budgeting, family and community involvement and planning? And if not, should they? And if so, do you participate? You want me to say it again?
I just want to clarify. Is this courses for the trustees to
For
take?
the trustees to take, yes. Professional development.
Oh, I would totally participate in professional development. You can learn new things every day. I think we're learning all the time. I was at a forum a few nights ago, and we were talking about how to get people out to vote. And we went around the table, and it was very interesting how everyone had a unique thought of how to get people out to vote. And because I've been door knocking so much, I've been talking to a lot of young people. They're just telling me that they don't know even how to fill out forms to apply for scholarships or bursaries. So I'm finding that we're being educated all the time, and I think that trustees are no different. We need education to be professionally developed just like any other, sorry, I'm watching you whisper, any other profession.
Thanks, Ms. Hodson.
Can you hear me? Yes. The British Columbia School Trustees Association does put on courses for trustees, and they're well attended and well done. And when I was a trustee from 96 to 2002, I attended on a yearly basis. A lot of the programs that you mentioned, I've been through those courses, and I believe that absolutely trustees need to have professional development. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sullivan.
Professional development is needed in any profession, and the school trustees also engage in professional development. I also belong to the academies for the BCA, and there will be one in December for all the new trustees to go to, and for the experienced trustees to also upgrade what they've learned in the past.
Thank you, Mr. Ryan.
Thank you. I guess I speak louder. It's my teacher voice. I definitely believe in professional development for all professions. I take part in my professional development as a teacher, and every time I go, I come back with something new that I can share with my students and share with colleagues. So, as a new person coming into this position, should I be elected, I would definitely be seeking professional development, and I would definitely be taking as much as I can from the BC STA and what they offer.
Thank you. Ms. Alfie, I have a different question for you. Do you feel the BC government provides adequate funding to School District 43?
No, I do not, and I don't think anybody in this room would probably believe that. What you read in the media is our response to that, and then government response to that. But what we do know is, even though we're receiving more funds per student than ever before, we have been downloaded so many costs that it's not keeping up with the pace of what we're getting extra. And Burquitlam is the second, I believe, lowest funded district in the province. And right now we're trying to get the minister to review that funding formula so that we have a more fair share in our district.
Thank you. Ms. Liu?
I look at the last 10 years the school budget, and government funding did increase from last 10 years. I didn't have time to pull out the last 20 years. And the funding is increased, but do they have enough? And I don't think so. And we all agree you never have enough money to do everything you want.
Thank you, Ms. Wallace.
Thank you. Just to give you a few figures, the average student is funded $7,500 in the province. Our district gets a little under $7,000. So we're shortchanged by about $500 per student. And overall, that adds up to a fair bit of money. In addition to that, there's a funding protection program that takes about $2 million from our district to give throughout the province. So yes, we were really underfunded.
Thank you. Mr. Jensen?
I think the correct answer was yes. We are underfunded. Gail's mentioned that we're underfunded by about $500 per student compared to the district, or the average of the districts in BC. We're also $1,000 per student underfunded if you compare all students across Canada. Now, what are we going to do about that? You can see that the government has had a tough time with the teachers in their negotiation. We stand a better chance of looking at the funding protection program.
Thank you. Ms. Wickens, I have a different question for you. That one? Yep, this one. That's us. In major disciplinary matters with staff or students that would be outside the jurisdiction of the principal, would School District 43 get involved with restorative justice?
Can you repeat that question, please?
Yes, in major disciplinary matters with staff or students that would be outside the jurisdiction of the principal, would School District 43 get involved with restorative justice?
I believe that the job of the trustees is to ensure that the students are at the center of every decision and that students feel safe in their school communities. And I think that School District 43 would have a responsibility to work with local RCMP with any matter. As far as restorative justice goes, I think whatever we can do as trustees to ensure that our students' needs are being met is what the responsibility of a trustee is.
Thank you. Go back to Ms. Moon. The same question, please.
Can I just ditto Joey? I feel the same. I think as trustees, we have a responsibility to ensure that children are feeling safe in their schools, and that if it's above the principal's head to deal with an issue, that the school board needs to be there as support, as the other avenue to help. I'm not familiar with the policies regarding it, but I'm willing and able and ready to learn as soon as possible.
Thank you. Ms. Hobson?
Thank you. I believe we are involved in restorative justice. I don't see why we wouldn't be. It would be a natural for the school district to be involved. There are situations where students or young people, for whatever reason, need a helping hand, and that restorative justice means that perhaps their court time will be less, and yet they will receive a better lesson out of the experience.
Thank you. Ms. Sutton?
As a district, we already do engage in restorative justice for students, and we have learned that if a young person is struggling with aspects of their life that is not a safety issue to other classmates, restorative justice a lot of time is the answer. And having someone expelled or having them removed from the school is not necessarily the answer. It's trying to keep them engaged in the classrooms and so they can learn and get their academics.
Thank you. Mr. Ryan, I have a new question for you. Does School District 43 have a separate policy for First Nations students?
It's my understanding that throughout British Columbia we recognize the First Nations students. I know that at each of the events that happen on school district property, the First Nations people are recognized for that area that we are in, and I'm actually surprised we didn't do it here tonight. But yes, there's definitely separate instances for the First Nations people throughout the province, not just in our own school district. And there's different programs set up along with that.
Thank you. Ms. Alty?
We do have Aboriginal education programs with their own budget, which is targeted to that program specifically. Not only Aboriginal education students can choose these programs, it's open to any student that wishes to take part. And our graduation rates for Aboriginal students are steadily climbing, and that's a result of the fact that we do spend some special money on them.
Thank you. Ms. Lou?
I don't have much information about the personal thing, but I, as an immigrant, I do believe that everything with every group that in our community will have a policy in place to protect the oldest students' rights.
Thank you. Ms. Wallace?
We do have a very large Aboriginal community in our district, and there is a fair amount of funding that comes from the provincial government to enhance and encourage looking at a greater degree of graduation rates for these students, which we are now one of the highest in the province, which is amazing, and yet we still have a long way to go. And the focus is on learning the culture and experiencing more of their heritage. So I'm very proud of our district for what we are doing.
Thank you. Mr. Dennison, I have a new question for you. Would you be in favor of allowing particular students to be part of or privy to the decision process, presumably in some disciplinary action?
Yes, I would. That's an excellent question. I've been involved with student leadership actually over the years, and I didn't mention that in my introduction. But leadership is what makes our society as functional and as productive as it is. And if we can begin to do more of that in the high schools and in the elementary schools even, that's kudos to us if we can involve them more. Also, students will accept decisions a whole lot more if they have a part in it, and they'll really enjoy it, I'm sure.
Thank you. Ms. Wickens?
I agree with Chuck. As I said before, believe that students need to be at the center of any decision that we make. And when we include students in the decision-making process for whatever decision that is, it empowers them and it teaches them. It also, I believe, engages their parents and their families and the public. And so students need to be a part of all of the decisions that we make, and probably one of the most important decision makers on their own education themselves.
Thank you. Ms. Cahoon, same question, please.
I agree. I think that students should definitely be involved in the decision process. It helps them learn and also engage and communicate with adults. We all think because we're adults we're so smart, but actually children that I talk to have wonderful ideas and thoughts and concepts that I wouldn't even think of. So I think them being involved in that process would be a huge benefit to themselves and the process in itself.
Thank you. Ms. Hobson?
I've forgotten how uncomfortable these chairs are. Of course, I agree. I think that our students learn by example, but I also think that we learn from our students, and often they have better solutions to problems than we as adults think of.
Thank you. Ms. Selden, I've got a new question for you. What steps would you take to prevent bullying or other forms of harassment to gay or lesbian students?
I am a very strong believer that all youth have to feel that they are accepted in our schools and they feel safe. And how we do that is through education and by what we do as the adults in the community to model. And I actually get quite offended when I hear that we have to be tolerable of these young people. I don't think I want to be in a community or a school where I'm tolerated. I want to be accepted and I want to be embraced. And we can do that through education and by setting example as the adults on how we make sure everyone feels safe.
Thank you. Mr. Ryan?
Yes, thank you. I believe this is actually one of our important things that we need to deal with throughout the school district, not just with the LGBTQ people, but in all forms of bullying. But particularly in their case, I know I am a teacher in Burnaby. The Burnaby School District has been one of the leaders in bringing these sorts of things forward and making sure that there are policies around it. I support those policies. I've seen the effects that they have, and that more people are being helped.
Thank you. Ms. Altake?
When we developed our policy 18, I think it was back in '96, I fully supported it, and it was a statement that said, we treat all our people, students, teachers, other staff, with tolerance, respect, and free of bullying and intimidation. That time it was inclusive of all children, and I believe we could take a look at it and either renew it as it is, or the new board needs to make a decision on that. I think it's time.
Thank you. Ms. Liu?
I believe that should be zero tolerance of any kind of bullying on school ground. So that applies the gay, lesbian, and anything, any other bullies. That's what I truly believe.
Thank you. Let's see. Ms. Wallace, I have a new question for you. In fact, it's a two-parter, so maybe we'll split it into two parts. What are your long-range plans for the school board?
Well, I think it's been already mentioned. Our district has been so underfunded over the years, and I think it's really time to look at a new funding formula because the old one isn't working. And in addition to that, we have put into some place 14 new recommendations that came from a forensic audit. And working on that, I'm on the finance committee, and I'm really pleased to see the results that we are getting from that, as well as this past year, we put together a whole new budget process, which becomes more accurate because we get our funding at the end of March. So for the whole month of April, we do public consultation, we do newspaper ads, trying to get people out and then trying to get input as to what we want to see for priorities for the budget for that next year.
Thank you. Mr. Dennison?
Long-range plans, well, I hate to call it long range, but the finances of the district aren't going to go away in a big hurry, and certainly not this coming spring. It's going to be a tough spring, I think, for the people who are elected. But we have a long way to go on that. Squeezing a bit of money out of the government is not an easy thing at all. And we could go on with that for a long time. I'd also like to see more student-driven activities. We mentioned leadership already.
Thank you. Ms. Wickens?
I believe that we need to look at, the Auditor General put out a report on board governance, and it asked some key questions on how boards were doing in operating their district. And I think we need to look at that, and we need to revamp our competency matrix and how we're evaluating what the board is doing. I also believe that we need to look at a creative, inspirational way to involve our public, to advocate to our provincial government for a fair funding formula.
Thank you. Ms. Cahoon?
The next 4 years? Is that correct?
What are your long-range plans for the school board?
Okay. I want to maintain the finance committee because somehow it disappeared, it sounds like, and we've reformed it. I want to look into the financial issues that have happened in the past and continue to monitor so we're aware of all financial things that are going on, and we're in constant communication with the treasurer, secretary, and his group. And then also continue to communicate with the public. I have to admit I'm a bit addicted to door knocking now. I like talking to everyone, so I don't want to stop.
Thank you. Thanks. Ms. Hobson, I've got a new question for you. What are your top 2 objectives if elected?
Only 2? Well, I think the finances is the first one. I think we really need to get those under control. And the best way to do that is to have a transparent finance committee that reports out to the board on a monthly basis. That hasn't been happening. My second priority would be to lobby government for additional funding, because I really do believe that we've been shortchanged, and I believe that the current board has had some difficulties because the government has stepped back a bit from the funding. So I would like the funding formula to be looked at.
Thank you. Ms. Sullivan, same question?
One of my goals is to actually be on the subcommittee for the financials for this next term. as well as engaging the community more. We do have community forums and have people come out, but we have to develop a way of getting more people out. It's a lot of times it's the same people that are involved, and we have to make sure that the community understands what school trustees do. Every time we go through the election process, there is confusion. So.
Thank you. Mr. Ryan?
Thank you. I think no matter who you ask, we're all thinking of the same things here. Obviously, we need to get the government to put in proper funding. That's the number one thing. But on top of that, we need to involve more of you. And we need to involve more parents and taxpayers to make sure that they are the ones that are asking the government for this more funding. And one of my priorities is going to be to get more involvement out of you, the public, me, the public. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Outake, same question, please.
We do have a new finance committee. We used to have one, and then the board moved to committee of the whole. I think what we have done is good. We have trustee representation on it. We will be having regular reports back to the board and the public. We have started a new budget process last year, so I'm looking forward to maintaining that or improving on it. And I would be looking forward to implementing our Learning Without Boundaries initiatives, personalized learning and direct instruction for students. So that
Thank you. Ms. Liu, I've got a new question for you. Do you know how to evaluate your board superintendent performance? Do you know how to evaluate your board superintendent's performance?
Honestly, I don't have enough information about that.
Okay, Ms. Wallace?
Yes, we do. We have quite an intensive evaluation process that our superintendent goes through. It involves his activity, her activity within the community. We've got 5 different jurisdictions that the superintendent must get involved with. There's Coquitlam, Port Moody, and more in Belcarra. So it's a huge responsibility. In addition to that, it's the overall achievement of our students. How are we doing within the province? And that's probably the largest area that we look at because we want our kids to succeed and we want them to graduate and we want them to carry on.
Thank you. Mr. Dennison?
Thought you might give me a tougher question than that one. Goals. We need the superintendent of education to have goals. There may be some, but I've never heard them articulated. So let's find out what they are. Our new board can do that. We need reports and statuses of human resources, what they're doing, what they've accomplished, and priority setting. Those are that person's job. I want to know how they're doing.
Thank you. Ms. Perkins?
I believe there is a system in place to evaluate the superintendent and assistant superintendents. However, I think there are large components missing. Evaluation by way of completion rates and test scores in our district is not doing us well. I think that we need other ways to evaluate performance. Part of that could be engaging the community more, getting more parent feedback through surveys, etc. So we do need to revamp the way that we evaluate not only our superintendent, but assistant superintendents as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Good, you get a new question. What endorsements, support, or donations have you received from unions or other organizations?
Well, I'm proud to say I've been endorsed by QP 561, and they've been very kind with their funding so that I can create wonderful signs and pamphlets to hand out. And if I didn't have that funding, you wouldn't know who I am. So I also have endorsement from US Labor Council, and I'm very proud that they have interviewed me, and it was a thorough interview in my opinion. Much like this, without other competitors, I was just me, myself, and I, and it was a wonderful experience, and I'm very proud that they have endorsed me. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Hobson?
Well, My answer is going to be significantly shorter. I have no endorsements from any group.
Thank you. So,
I have not been endorsed by anyone, and I have not received any donations. So any of this work that I'm doing is being paid for by myself personally, because I am passionate about wanting to fill this position.
thank you, Mr. Ryan.
Like Carol, I am proud to say that I have been endorsed by my wife and my son, my friends and my family, and the people that I work with that know me well. I've not been endorsed by any labor unions. I'm not endorsed by the teachers union, though I'm a teacher. I'm doing this on my own, out of my own pocket, and I will still get out there and meet you all, and you will still know who I am, and I will still have some signs out there, but I'm going to do it on my own. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Outake, I've got a new question for you. Are you in favor of phonics or whole language instruction for reading in elementary school?
I would have to say I'm not an expert teacher, but I am more in favor of phonics. We embraced the whole language programs years ago and embraced it for a long time, and then it was discovered that some kids can't learn that way. We need to look at an individual child and see how they learn to read and write best in which way.
Thank you. Ms. Lou?
I support any program here at the school and to help all the students in need, and that's my general opinion.
Thank you. Ms. Wallace?
I believe in both forms. It depends on the student. Some students learn by sounding with the phonics, others learn by the whole language. So I think it really comes down to the individual student and working with the teacher. And most teachers now are trained in both areas. Some aren't, but some are. But I just feel it really depends on how the student learns.
Thank you. Mr. Dennison?
There is a progression here. Phonics is generally how we begin to teach kids the sounds of each of the characters in the language, in the alphabet, start to put them together, the diphthongs, the syllables. But in the long run, the way we read in general, and particularly the best readers, read one word at a time.